Hey everybody, Steven here, and today a special video because I got invited to a live stream with the Subnautica Below Zero Dev team. Shout out to Donya, the community manager, for making this happen. Now, the two main devs that were presenting kind of what the world of Subnautica Below Zero is and the game were Scott, also known as Obraxis, and Corey, who is the art director. So about 67 people showed up to this, and with this, Anthomnia and IGP were two of the bigger names that I noticed. And so with this, we had a presentation. Scott and Corey talked for about 20-30 minutes, just showcasing the world, kind of the setup to what this is, as it's the follow-up to Subnautica. And then after that, we actually had Q&A. And so this video is going to be covering really those questions and answers from the dev team, not only mine, but some of the other questions that I thought were really interesting. So let's go ahead and start with the one that everybody's going to be asking: when is this getting released? And unfortunately, they did not cover that. And I was kind of let down because I thought that would be one of the things that they would highlight with this. I thought this was really the press presentation and the announcement for the release date, but I know that there are a lot of moving parts because they are still aiming to release this simultaneously on consoles. So there's a lot of things that are in the works with that, where I don't think they can 100% give a concrete date, because if something pops up and they have to move it, there may be some backlash with that. So unfortunately, no release date. It's still early 2021 at this point. The next one was, what are some post-launch plans for this? And chill mode was one of the things that I actually asked about. For those that remember, I covered this, I think, over the summer. And chill mode was presented in Favreau as this mode where it would just be kind of stress-free gameplay. With everybody dealing with COVID-19, it just seemed like something where instead of getting in the game and you have to worry about all these different aspects of it, you could just kind of come in and essentially swim around. Is the way it was presented. You could swim around, build bases, and you're not limited to resources, or you don't have to worry about food or oxygen or anything like that. So it's like a subtle tweak on creative mode. And so the dev team said there are currently no concrete post-launch plans outside of really just bug fixes. So we're not going to see any new creatures or anything like that. These things just aren't set in stone yet. And so I don't want to frame that up to make people think that, hey, they're going to put a bunch of stuff in game after post. They always kind of hint at things and they leave it very open-ended. I don't know for sure if they're going to add anything after launch. Just really expect that after the game launches, they're really just going to be focusing on bugs for a good while. And it was asked how the dev team has been handling COVID-19 in terms of working remotely, and the team mostly works remotely anyways. They had a studio, I believe, in San Francisco, and that one closed down. It was either San Francisco or San Diego, and so that one closed down, but not a lot of people worked there. It was just a handful of people that did kind of want to work in that office environment. So it hasn't really impacted the team much in that regard. What it has impacted is the voice work and trying to find studios that were open to actually record the voiceover work. And anybody that's followed the channel knows that that's been something that I've highlighted in a lot of the videos kind of over the summer and into the fall, because a lot of people were waiting on when is the new voice work going to get put in game. And that was really part of that huge delay with that, was just there wasn't any place to record. And next was actually a question from me, which was, how does the dev team respond to community feedback? And this was actually geared towards the Ice Dragon, which has been cut. And we're going to talk about that here in a minute. But the dev team obviously listens to the community, and they highlighted the fact that the Spy Penguin is actually an idea that the community presented to the dev team. And then obviously we have the music that is in game as well. You can find the 5 or 6 music discs lying around the world, and those are actually made by the community. So really cool that they're including the community in a lot of different aspects with this game. And so next, the dev team showed off some of the things that have been added to the game in terms of base building components as a direct reflection of input from the community. With this, we have the new control room where you can actually change the different colors of your base. You have the large base room. You have the walls or the partitions that you can put up in that. And these are things that were asked a lot of for the first game. So they added it to this. So cool to see that not only have they listened to the community, but they've added a lot of these things in. But we also have some things that have been cut. And so this brings us to the Ice Dragon and why this didn't make it in the game. And the thing that kind of got pointed to was this takes up a lot of resources beyond just the initial, hey, we're going to do the art and we're going to do the model of it. I mean, you have to animate this thing, you need a biome for it, you need to look at the behaviors, you have to record the sound. And so the dev team just really felt that there wasn't a good biome for this in this game, and it would feel like they were doing it an injustice if they just threw it in somewhere. And the dev team knows that the community really likes the ice dragon and that it sucks that it's being cut. But they always do this where they give you this small piece of hope, and they are hopeful that maybe one day they can find a home for it somewhere, which also kind of lends itself into, are they going to be making more of these games? And this was actually answered by Obraxis, and this is where it's always kind of cryptic. Like I said, they give you a little bit of hope with this, but he said that they will for sure be coming back to visit the world of Subnautica, but they can't make any promises. So it's like a weird yes, but maybe not, but we want to. So it's hard to say, but I definitely think they will be back to visit this. I think there's a lot more story in this world that they can actually tell, and it also depends on the ending, which we haven't seen. So I'm wondering how much of a cliffhanger we get with the end of this game. Now, talking about the ice dragon being cut, I actually asked about another thing that got cut, which was the recharge platform. And so with this, some of these items just don't work out. They end up not making sense, essentially. And ironically, the recharge platform is the thing that became the Snow Fox hover pad. I didn't know that. That was pretty cool, but the weather station got cut. They just end up not making sense for the world, or they just don't have a place for it in the story, which is why it ultimately doesn't make it into the game. Next was actually one of my questions, which was, why are the architect bases in this game smaller than the first game? And really, is this going to get explained in the story? And it's not going to get explained in the story. It's something that it's kind of left up to your interpretation as to why this is, but they did say that the first game, those facilities seemed more primary to what the architects were doing, and this seems more like an outpost and secondary, which would explain the smaller size, but it's still really up to your imagination. You get to fill in the blanks. Why do you think these are smaller than the first game? And on that note, obviously the game is smaller. I've heard different figures on that in terms of the map size. The dev team didn't directly answer that with this Q&A session, but because of the smaller map, the thing that they did mention is the fact that they can put more polish into these biomes, which is something that I've talked about over the last couple years. So the first game was really massive and the biomes looked amazing, but with this game, because it's smaller, they get to do a lot more detail work. One of the questions got asked, what are some things from the first game that didn't make it, that potentially made it into this? And the Twisty Bridges biome is one example of that. And so that rounded out the Q&A section of their presentation. I want to thank the dev team for spending the time to actually talk with us. And with this, I'm curious, what do you guys think are kind of some of the potential post-launch updates that we may see outside of bug fixes? Do you think we see potentially some new creatures down the road, maybe? Or maybe a new biome? That'd be really cool if we got that. Fingers crossed. The dev team is always cryptic with some of that stuff, so it seems like they're always up for that. It really just boils down to, do they have time and resources to make that happen? And then down the road, do you think they come back and make another game? With that, do we do an open world game? Do we do a linear story? Do we do multiplayer? I know people have asked about that a lot. That didn't get answered. A lot of people have asked that question, but this is supposed to be kind of just you by yourself, and it's supposed to be a survival game, but I do think that would be pretty cool outside of the mod that you can do for it. Do they stay on this planet? Do they go to Alan's homeworld? Do we go somewhere else? So lots of potential things that they could do, but do they come back to this world? Now, they did mention, and I covered this over the summer because they did an announcement, the dev team is moving on to a new game, completely different. It's not Subnautica related. And with this, it's kind of like a turn-based game. It's like XCOM. If they did that in early access, is that something you guys would be interested in me covering that with videos as well? If so, let me know in the comment section. But I'm hopeful that we get this released here in the next 1 to 2 months, because that rounds out that first quarter of 2021. So March or April, I'm kind of thinking with this. But after that, I will do a live stream of the game. I'll do a bunch of videos on that as well. And then once we get a little bit more info on that new game, like I said, if that's something that you guys want to see, I would love to cover that as well. So that's going to be it for this one, everybody. Hopefully this helps shed some light on some of these things with questions you may have had for the dev team. And like I said, I just want to thank them for actually spending the time. I want to thank Donya again for putting my name in that group to actually be a part of this. It was really cool just to see their presentation, to get to ask them some questions, and then to actually get those answered directly from them. So that's going to be it for this one, everybody. If you like the video, hit the like button for me. If you want to continue to follow along with all my content, hit the subscribe button for me. Thanks so much for watching.